Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Am I the Asshole? If you're a fan of hearing Reddit anecdotes, it would really support the channel a lot if you could like or subscribe. Let's dive into our first story right away. Am I the asshole for asking my sister to replace my jelly beans after her son ate them? So I, 25 male, recently invited my family over for dinner at my new condo. I'm really proud of this place. It took years of saving, hard work, and sacrifice to get here. It's small, but it's mine, and I wanted to celebrate with a nice family dinner. I decided to make homemade spaghetti carbonara. I spent hours on it. Crisped pancetta, freshly grated Parmesan, whisked with eggs and pasta water for a perfect silky sauce. Carbonara is all about timing and texture, so I was in the kitchen paying close attention to every step. I added garlic bread, salad, and even made a cheesecake for dessert. It was a big effort, and I wanted the evening to feel special. Now, I keep a big jar of jelly beans on my coffee table as a treat. I love picking out a few here and there, and I always save the cream soda ones for last. They're my favorite. The jar has lasted a long time, and it's something I enjoy after a long day. My sister Laura, 35 female, brought her 7-year-old son, who's honestly a bit of a handful, is not used to hearing no and thinks every space is his to do what he wants. My sister has never set limits with him, and growing up, our parents spoiled her too. While I was busy in the kitchen, my nephew found the jelly bean jar. I didn't notice at first, because I was trying to get the carbonara just right. After dinner, I went to grab a handful of jelly beans and realized that almost all the cream soda ones were gone. My nephew had picked them out, leaving a mess of crumbs and broken bits. I pulled Laura aside and mentioned it, asking if Shed noticed. She just shrugged and said, "Oh, he only likes the cream soda ones, so he picked those out. No big deal." I tried to be polite, but I told her that those were my favorites and asked if she could replace them or at least get me some more of the cream soda flavor. She got annoyed and snapped, "He's just a kid. You're seriously this worked up over some jelly beans?" I told her it wasn't about the jelly beans, but that it would have been nice if Shed kept an eye on him or taught him to ask. Laura rolled her eyes and said, "Then don't leave temptations out if you don't want kids touching them." I asked her one more time to either replace the jar or just the cream soda ones, but she refused, calling me petty and saying I was blowing things out of proportion. My parents jumped in to back her up, telling me to drop it and that I should know better than to have temptations out around kids. But it's not just about the money, it's about respect and boundaries. I put a lot into that dinner, and her response was to let her son treat my place like his personal candy store. Now my family thinks I'm overreacting, but to me, this is about respecting boundaries. Am I the asshole for asking my sister to replace the cream soda jelly beans her son ate? Edit. I'll accept my verdict since apparently it is normal these days to allow a child to root through a jar of jelly beans like a hog looking for truffles. What I won't accept, what I won't tolerate, is the insults about my competency as a home chef. Let me walk you through it so you understand why real carbonara takes time and why cutting corners would be a disgrace. First, I went to this authentic Italian market with shelves stacked high with imported goods, where the scent of cured meats fills the air. They carry real pancetta, flown in weekly, and I spent ages with the owner Domenico, who handpicked the perfect wedge of Parmigiano Reggiano for me, a rich, nutty block that was almost too beautiful to grate. Next, I stopped at this tiny, family-owned shop that specializes in fresh farm eggs and produce. Carla, the owner, gets these eggs from a nearby farm, and each one is an intense, deep golden color, perfect for a creamy, rich sauce. Finally, I swung by a salumeria for semolina flour. It sounds dramatic, but that's the lengths I go for traditional pasta. The place feels like a rustic, old-world bakery, with walls lined in wooden shelves and burlap sacks stacked high. Their semolina flour has a texture and richness that just doesn't compare, ideal for handmade pasta that holds up with the perfect al dente bite. Back home, I crafted the pasta from scratch. Flour piled on the counter, eggs nestled into a well, kneading it with care until the dough was soft and elastic. A process that took a solid 15 minutes of arm work. Then, I let the dough rest before rolling it into long ribbons, each one dusted lightly with flour, like fresh snow. Finally, I crisped the pancetta, grated the cheese by hand, and whisked the eggs to the perfect consistency. The sauce had to be watched like a hawk, just enough heat to turn it creamy without scrambling, with careful additions of pasta water to reach that glossy, silken texture. So yes, it took hours, and I'm not ashamed to say that. Given the limits of this subreddit, you're the asshole. But really, you're just being petty. They're jelly beans. They aren't expensive, and they make more every day. Buy some cream soda jelly beans and hide the jar whenever nephew comes over, which probably won't be often considering you're making a big deal about jelly beans. Congratulations on the condo, though. Agreed? If you choose to be child-free or don't really know how to interact with or be around children, that's your own choice. But if you're going to invite them over to your house, you can't expect them not to act like children. And this is coming from someone who is child-free by choice. You're hosting, you have candy set out in a common area, you should assume it will be eaten. Frankly, I would hope you have something set out for them to snack on and entertain them if you invited them over, but plan to spend time in the kitchen preparing a tricky meal. You chose to make a complex meal that takes specific timing. I'm assuming they didn't specifically request it. And you did so knowing that there was a child present who, let's be honest, is probably not going to understand or care how much time went into it. There is a reason kids' menus have basic things like cheese noodles and burgers and chicken fingers. And don't even get me started on the cream soda ones are my favorite. Well, they're his too. How the heck is he supposed to know what your favorite ones are? If you don't want them eaten, put them away. And for the love of God, you're making carbonara. You fancy. You can get another bag of jelly beans. Hell, Amazon exists. Buy yourself an entire bag of just the cream soda ones. Frankly, you sound very immature. You talk about him being spoiled and not raised right, but you sound to me as if you haven't been socialized to the extent that I would expect a grown adult with siblings and a nephew to be. I can identify 100% with how you're feeling. We all feel that way when we work hard and things don't go the way we planned, or when something we have looked forward to eating is gone. The difference is we have grown and learned that we aren't in control of other people's actions, and that other people aren't actually responsible for our feelings or expectations. We don't throw a tantrum about it, because that's not helpful to anyone. You set yourself up for disappointment here by being completely unrealistic, and you're trying to place blame on a child for acting predictably. Perhaps you're neurodivergent, and that's why you're fixating so much on these details, and why you're so upset about your jelly bean consumption order being messed up. I have ADHD, and I relate very hard to how you're feeling and how you responded because I went through a phase like that too, when I was a child and a teenager. In future, don't set unrealistic expectations so that you avoid foreseeable disappointments like this. If you want to have a fancy dinner party, invite adults. If you don't want your jelly beans eaten, don't leave them out on a friggin' tray where any reasonable person would assume they're intended to be open to guests. If you don't like the way your nephew behaves in your space or you're very particular about your space, don't invite him over. Go over to their place instead, where you can leave if you get overwhelmed. You're a new homeowner. I get it. You had certain ideas and expectations of how the evening would go and wanted to show off your adulting skills in your adult space and feel fancy and independent. But if your home space is sacred to you, you have to understand that inviting people into it is going to potentially disrupt whatever processes you have going on. Hosting a dinner party is not acting out a play for the audience to act their part and clap and ooh and ah at the intended moments. It's a gathering of people to enjoy one another's company and share in one another's food and intimate space. There has to be give and take. If I saw a bowl of candy out with disproportionately more of one flavor, I would assume the owner didn't like that one. Not that they're saving the best for last, which is what I like to do, but then I don't leave it out for others to grab. I wouldn't assume my kid could eat whatever candy is out, though, and I definitely wouldn't allow them to dig their hands into it. You had a jar of jelly beans out when you had guests and got upset when one of them helped themselves. That's just part of hosting. Next time, put away anything you don't want seen, eaten, potentially broken, or judged. You're the asshole. You wrote, "I keep a big jar of jelly beans on my coffee table as a treat." Well, that is exactly what happened. Your nephew discovered them and helped himself to a treat of the flavor he liked. I get your point, but you're being very precious about jelly beans. I tend to agree with you regarding your nephew's behavior, but again, he didn't break or damage anything. He merely ate something which you left out as a treat. Your response is OTT to the point of, "You're the asshole." Unless you made the pasta yourself, I can't see how you spent hours on carbonara. Am I the asshole for telling my wife that the house we're going to build won't have 5 extra rooms for her mom, her 3 brothers, and her cousin? Was looking at house plans to submit to the town hall for approval for an acre we own out in Minnesota, 4-bedroom, 1 for wife and me, 1 for each of our 2 kids, and an extra room as a playroom/game room. Where's my family staying? She already promised them that they would move in with us, and us now furious that you only care about yourself. What about me? I told her that I didn't agree to that from the start. Now she's looking to sell the land from under me to prove a point, I guess. Info. The land is owned jointly by me and my wife. It was purchased using the life insurance payout we got for the death of our 1-year-old girl in 2021. Between then and now, I got a manufacturing job with a federal government contractor. Her family has no stake or rights to our land. I got a call from the town's registrar about the ownership change inquiries for the land. We actually own 2 parcels, and I offered her to sell 1 parcel to her siblings for market value, but she declined. The house will be paid by me. I told her if her family want, I can do an ADU, but they will pay market value for their rent per room, so about $900 each. She declined. My current course of action is to transfer my ownership of the land into a trust with my kids as primary owners with express instructions that only direct descendants of me may build and live on the property. Not the asshole. I'm guessing her family would also be a financial burden. Why else would they need to live with you? That many functioning adults should be able to pool together, buy their own land, and build their own house. However, who owns the land? You may be selling it soon to divide the marital assets anyway, if you really don't want your wife's relatives living with you. If the land is in her family or was her inheritance, I'd change my vote. But if you purchased it together, my vote stands. Apparently, OP's wife sees OP as an all-in-one social service for her family. Lodging, food, where will it end? Info. Who actually owns the land? Your wife, you, or is it a joint marital asset? If it's yours, then she doesn't get to tell you what to do with it. If it's hers, then she can sell it if she wants. If it's a joint asset, neither of you can sell it without the other person. My solution is that if it is hers, she can sell it and then divorce her. Don't waste your time building a life to get stuck taking care of her family. I feel there is a great deal of detail missing from this story. Not the asshole, but you probably are getting a divorce. Well, that's another episode of Am I the Asshole in the books. I really appreciate all of you who made it this far into the video. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, it would really help the channel out a lot if you gave the video a thumbs up, subscribe, or leave a comment down below. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.